10 kings who mocked God and paid the ultimate price. The Bible tells us of kings who ruled with wisdom and righteousness, but it also warns us about those who were utterly wicked. These rulers defied God, led nations into sin, and met horrifying ends. From sacrificing their own children to mocking God himself, these 10 kings stand out as the most evil in biblical history. Who was the worst of them all? Which king's downfall was the most terrifying? In this video, we break down their shocking reigns, the sins that sealed their fate, and the divine justice that followed. Stay till the end to see which king takes the #1 spot. Our journey into the darkest corners of the human heart begins with Ahab, the king of Israel. Ahab, you see, was seduced by the whispers of darkness, led astray by the cunning Jezebel, a Phoenician princess with a heart cold as ice. Together they turned their backs on the one true God, embracing instead the false promises of Baal. Imagine, if you will, a kingdom once bathed in the light of faith, now shrouded in the shadow of pagan rituals, the air thick with the stench of incense burned not in worship but in blasphemous offerings to a false god. But it wasn't just the idolatry, it was the cruelty, the utter disregard for human life. Ahab and Jezebel, drunk on power and wickedness, persecuted the prophets, silenced the voices of truth, and even sacrificed innocent children on the altar of Baal. Their reign was a tapestry woven with threads of idolatry, deceit, and bloodshed, a stark warning to those who dare to turn their backs on the divine. From the depths of history emerges another figure consumed by darkness, Manasseh, king of Judah. Imagine, if you can, a king so blinded by his own ambition, so consumed by the lure of forbidden knowledge, that he would offer his own flesh and blood as a sacrifice. Manasseh's reign was a descent into depravity, a relentless pursuit of power fueled by the darkest of magic. He erected altars to pagan gods, embraced the occult, and spilled the blood of innocents, turning the holy city of Jerusalem into a den of wickedness. His heart, once a vessel of potential, became a breeding ground for evil, a stark reminder that even those born into privilege can succumb to the whispers of darkness. The story of Jeroboam, the first king of the northern kingdom of Israel, is a tale of ambition gone astray, a stark reminder that even the best intentions can pave the road to ruin. Driven by a desire to secure his throne, Jeroboam, in a moment of misguided judgment, turned his back on the one true God. He feared that the pilgrimage to Jerusalem, the spiritual heart of his people, would weaken his grip on power. And so, he erected golden calves, idols of his own making, symbols of a faith corrupted by political expediency. This act of sacrilege, this betrayal of his people's covenant with God, shattered the fragile unity of Israel, setting the stage for centuries of conflict and spiritual decay. Jeroboam's reign serves as a sobering reminder that power, when sought for its own sake, can corrupt even the most righteous heart. Chapter 4. Sennacherib, the arrogant king who challenged God. From the annals of history rises the imposing figure of Sennacherib, the mighty king of Assyria, a ruler who dared to challenge the power of God himself. Imagine, if you will, the tramp of thousands upon thousands of soldiers, their armor glinting in the sun, their voices a thunderous chorus of war cries. Sennacherib's army was a force of nature, sweeping across the land, laying waste to all who stood in its path. Hezekiah, the righteous king of Judah, trembled as Sennacherib's forces surrounded his city, their shadows falling like a shroud over Jerusalem. But Sennacherib, drunk on his own power, his heart swollen with pride, made a fatal mistake. He sent a message to Hezekiah, a message filled with scorn and blasphemy, mocking the God of Israel, daring him to intervene. Little did Sennacherib know that his arrogance would be his undoing, that he had awakened a power far greater than his own. Chapter 5. Belshazzar, the Feast of Excess, and the Handwriting on the Wall. The story of Belshazzar, the last king of Babylon, is a cautionary tale of extravagance, a stark reminder that even the mightiest empires can crumble under the weight of their own decadence. Imagine, if you will, a palace bathed in the golden glow of 1,000 oil lamps, the air thick with the scent of exotic spices and the sound of music and laughter. Belshazzar, the last scion of a dynasty steeped in conquest and glory, was holding a feast, a lavish display of wealth and power. Wine flowed freely, and the king, his senses dulled by indulgence, made a blasphemous gesture. he ordered his servants to bring forth the sacred vessels plundered from the temple in Jerusalem, using them as goblets for his drunken revelry. But as the night wore on, a chill settled over the room. A disembodied hand appeared, writing a cryptic message on the palace wall. Panic gripped the heart of the king, his laughter turning to terror as he realized that this was no ordinary night, that the God he had defied had come to call him to account. Chapter 6, Herod the Great, the king who slaughtered the innocents, Herod the Great. The name itself evokes images of power, ruthlessness, and a chilling disregard for human life. A king consumed by paranoia, haunted by the fear of losing his grip on power. When whispers of a newborn king, a Messiah, reached his ears, Herod's heart was gripped by a primal terror. He saw in this innocent child a threat, a rival for his throne. And so, he unleashed a wave of unimaginable cruelty upon the innocent, ordering the slaughter of all male children in Bethlehem, a desperate and futile attempt to extinguish the light of hope that had dawned in the world. Herod's reign, a tapestry woven with threads of ambition, paranoia, and bloodshed, stands as a chilling reminder of the depths of darkness that can reside in the human heart. Chapter 7. Pharaoh, the stubborn king who defied God. The story of Pharaoh, the unnamed ruler of Egypt, is a timeless tale of pride and defiance. He ruled a land of plenty, his people bound to his will, his power seemingly absolute. But when Moses, guided by the hand of God, came before Pharaoh demanding the release of the Israelites from their bondage, the king's heart hardened. He refused to acknowledge the power of the God of Israel, clinging instead to his own perceived divinity. Plague after plague ravaged Egypt, each one a testament to the might of the God he defied, yet Pharaoh's pride remained unbroken. He had built his kingdom on the backs of slaves, his wealth amassed through the sweat and toil of the oppressed. To relinquish his control over the Israelites would be to acknowledge a power greater than his own, a truth his heart refused to accept. And so, he led his army in pursuit of the fleeing Israelites, driving them towards the shores of the Red Sea, his heart consumed by a rage that would ultimately be his undoing. Nebuchadnezzar, the name echoes through the corridors of time, a symbol of both grandeur and tyranny. He was a king obsessed with power, his ego as vast as the empire he ruled. He demanded absolute obedience, his word law, his will unquestioned. And to solidify his dominion, to transform his subjects into worshippers of his own making, he erected a golden statue, a gleaming testament to his own perceived divinity. And he demanded that all who gazed upon it bow down and worship, to pledge their allegiance to him and him alone. But there were those who dared to defy him, 3 young men, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, their faith in the one true God unshakable. Nebuchadnezzar, his rage ignited by their defiance, condemned them to a fiery death, a testament to his own hubris, his blindness to the power of true faith. The story of Saul, the first king of Israel, is a tragedy, a tale of a man chosen by God, yet ultimately undone by his own flaws. Imagine a young man, humble, strong, chosen to lead his people to greatness. But the weight of the crown, the burden of leadership, proved too heavy for Saul to bear. He allowed jealousy to fester in his heart, his insecurities magnified by the growing popularity of the young David. And in his fear, his desperation to cling to power, he made a series of fateful decisions, each one drawing him further away from the path of righteousness. He disobeyed God's commands, his heart hardened by pride and envy, until finally, he was consumed by the very darkness he had sought to conquer. Jehoiakim, king of Judah, his name synonymous with arrogance and a blatant disregard for the divine word. Imagine a king seated on his throne surrounded by the trappings of power, yet utterly blind to the storm brewing on the horizon. The prophet Jeremiah, a voice crying out in the wilderness, came to Jehoiakim with a scroll, a message from God, a warning of impending doom. But Jehoiakim, his heart hardened by pride and arrogance, refused to listen. He saw Jeremiah's words as a threat to his authority, a challenge to his power. And in a fit of rage he took the scroll, the very word of God, and cast it into the fire, the flames consuming the parchment, but not the message it carried. Jehoiakim's act of defiance, his attempt to silence the voice of God, sealed his fate. We've journeyed through the annals of history, explored the lives of kings whose reigns were marked by cruelty, idolatry, and defiance. We've witnessed their rise to power and their inevitable falls from grace. Each king, in his own way, serves as a cautionary tale, a reminder that power, when unchecked by morality, can corrupt even the most righteous heart. Do you agree with this ranking? Which king do you think was the most wicked? Comment below, and let's discuss.